The chipped mug warmed Amelia's hands, but did little to thaw the icy dread that had taken root in her chest. It had started with the small things: a lingering hug between Liam, her boyfriend of 5 years, and Chloe, her best friend since kindergarten. A shared glance across a crowded room at a party, a knowing smile that didn't quite reach Amelia. Individually, they were insignificant, easily dismissed as the comfortable intimacy of close friends and a long-term partner. But cumulatively, they formed a disquieting pattern, a subtle shift in the familiar dynamics of their trio that Amelia couldn't ignore. Liam had been distant lately, his usual easygoing nature replaced by a preoccupied air. Chloe, always so open and effusive, seemed to choose her words carefully around Amelia, her bright eyes occasionally flicking away with a hint of something Amelia couldn't quite decipher. Guilt? Pity? The innocuous text message on Liam's phone had been the catalyst. He'd left it on the kitchen counter, face up, while he'd stepped out to take a call. Amelia hadn't meant to look, but the name flashing across the screen had caught her eye. My Love 3. It wasn't her name. Her heart had lurched, a cold fist clenching around it. She'd told herself it was a mistake, a wrong number, anything but what her gut was screaming. But the subsequent messages, brief and coded, spoke of secret meetings and stolen moments. The sickening realization had dawned on her with brutal clarity. Liam was cheating on her, and the my love was almost certainly Chloe. The world had tilted on its axis, the familiar comfort of her life dissolving into a swirling vortex of disbelief and pain. Her two closest people, the anchors of her existence, had betrayed her in the most profound way imaginable. The casual ease with which they had likely orchestrated their deceit, the shared laughter and whispered secrets at her expense, filled her with a rage so potent it felt like a physical force. She wanted to scream, to shatter every delicate teacup in her meticulously organized kitchen, to unleash the torrent of anguish that threatened to drown her. But instead, she forced herself to breathe, to gather the scattered fragments of her composure. She needed a plan. She wouldn't let them get away with this. They had underestimated her. They thought she was naive, trusting. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The initial shock was giving way to a steely resolve. This wasn't just about a broken heart. It was about a fundamental violation of trust, a deep wound that demanded retribution. The comfortable life she had built with Liam, the unwavering loyalty she had offered Chloe, all of it felt like a cruel joke now. The memories, once cherished, were now tainted with the bitter taste of betrayal. She remembered Chloe's comforting arm around her when Liam had been late for their anniversary dinner last year. Chloe's reassuring words about his demanding work schedule. Had Chloe already been involved with him then? The thought sent a fresh wave of nausea through Amelia. The intricate tapestry of their friendship, woven over years of shared experiences, now seemed to be a carefully constructed facade, designed to conceal their treachery. Amelia looked around her apartment, the space she had lovingly created with Liam, filled with shared mementos and inside jokes. Each object now seemed to mock her, a testament to a love that was a lie. She felt like an intruder in her own life, a stranger in a narrative she thought she understood. The phone buzzed on the counter, pulling her back to the present. It was Liam, a casual message asking if she needed anything from the store. The normalcy of it was jarring, a stark contrast to the turmoil raging within her. She typed back a simple, "No thanks," her fingers trembling slightly. She couldn't confront him yet. Not here. Not now. She needed to gather more evidence, to understand the full extent of their deception. She needed to be strategic. This wasn't just about exposing them. It was about reclaiming her own narrative, about emerging from this wreckage stronger and more resilient than ever before. The pain was still raw, a gaping wound in her heart, but beneath it, a flicker of determination was beginning to ignite. They had made a mistake. They had awakened a part of her they never knew existed. The following days were a blur of carefully constructed normalcy and clandestine investigation. Amelia acted as if nothing had changed, forcing smiles and engaging in mundane conversations with both Liam and Chloe. It was an Oscar-worthy performance, masking the storm of emotions brewing inside her. Every interaction felt like walking through a minefield, each word and gesture scrutinized for hidden meanings and betrayals. Liam, oblivious to her knowledge, continued his charade, showering her with the usual affection, his touch now feeling repulsive, his words hollow. Chloe, on the other hand, seemed more on edge, her usual bubbly demeanor replaced by a nervous energy. She avoided Amelia's gaze, her laughter sounding forced, her attempts at physical affection feeling strained. Amelia used this to her advantage, subtly probing, asking seemingly innocent questions, observing their reactions. She started paying closer attention to their social media activity, noticing the increasingly frequent likes and comments on each other's posts, the coded emojis that seemed to hold a secret language. She even created a fake Instagram account to monitor their private messages, a move that felt both invasive and necessary. The evidence mounted steadily, each piece of the puzzle clicking into place with sickening certainty. There were photos of them together, tagged at locations they had both claimed to be at separately. There were late-night messages filled with longing and affection. There was even a shared online calendar with entries marked "Dinner with Friends" that Amelia now knew were secret rendezvous. The sheer audacity of their deception was staggering. They had woven an intricate web of lies, assuming she was too blind or too trusting to see through it. But Amelia was seeing it all, the ugly truth laid bare in excruciating detail. The pain was still there, a dull ache that never quite went away. But it was now accompanied by a growing sense of anger and a burning desire for justice. She wasn't just going to walk away and let them rewrite her story. She was going to confront them, to expose their betrayal, and to reclaim her own power. The carefully constructed facade of her normal life was becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. The constant pretense, the forced smiles, the feigned ignorance, it was all taking a toll. Sleep offered little respite. Her nights filled with restless tossing and turning, replaying memories and imagining different scenarios of confrontation. Food had lost its appeal, and she had to force herself to eat just enough to keep going. The emotional strain was manifesting physically with headaches and a persistent knot in her stomach. But Amelia refused to break. She knew she was close to her breaking point, but she also knew she was close to uncovering the full truth. She had a feeling that there was more to this than just a simple affair. There were inconsistencies in their stories, subtle clues that suggested a deeper level of deception. Liam's recent business trips, which he had claimed were essential for work, now seemed suspicious. Chloe's sudden interest in a new business venture, which he had vaguely described as a collaboration with a silent partner, also raised red flags. Amelia started digging deeper, using her own network of contacts and her sharp investigative skills, honed during her years as a journalist, to uncover more information. She discreetly contacted Liam's colleagues, feigning concern about his well-being, and gleaned snippets of conversations that didn't quite add up. She also did some online research into Chloe's supposed business venture, finding no concrete evidence of its existence. The more she investigated, the more convinced she became that their betrayal was not just emotional, but also potentially financial. The thought sent a chill down her spine. Had they been plotting something bigger, something that involved her? The idea was terrifying, but it also fueled her determination. She had to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The charade couldn't continue much longer. The tension was palpable, and Amelia could feel herself nearing the point of explosion. She needed to act, and she needed to act soon. She decided to set a trap, a carefully orchestrated scenario that would force them to reveal their true colors. She booked a weekend getaway at a secluded cabin in the mountains, a place that held special significance for her and Liam. She told both of them about it, knowing that their reactions would be telling. Liam feigned enthusiasm, but Amelia noticed a flicker of unease in his eyes. Chloe, on the other hand, was surprisingly hesitant, making vague excuses about prior commitments. This confirmed Amelia's suspicions. They had something planned for that weekend, something that didn't involve her. The pieces were finally falling into place. The truth was within reach. The weekend getaway was a carefully constructed stage for Amelia's meticulously planned confrontation. The secluded cabin, nestled deep in the woods, was the backdrop for years of happy memories with Liam, memories now tainted by his betrayal. As she drove there alone, the familiar scenery felt alien, the air thick with unspoken accusations. She had told Liam she would meet him there later, giving her time to prepare. Chloe, as expected, had declined the invitation, citing a sudden family emergency. Amelia knew this was a lie. She had already confirmed with Chloe's family that there was no emergency. The lie only solidified Amelia's resolve. She had spent the past few days gathering irrefutable evidence of their affair and, more disturbingly, of their potential financial misconduct. She had uncovered emails, financial records, and even a recorded phone conversation that painted a damning picture. Liam and Chloe weren't just having an affair. They were plotting to steal her business, a successful online platform she had built from the ground up. They had been secretly diverting funds, setting up a shell corporation, and poaching her key clients. The silent partner Chloe had mentioned was Liam, and their new business venture was a blatant attempt to steal Amelia's livelihood. The betrayal cut deeper than she could have imagined. It wasn't just about a broken heart. It was about the systematic dismantling of her life's work by the two people she had trusted most. As Amelia waited in the cabin, the silence was deafening, broken only by the crackling of the fireplace. She laid out the evidence on the rustic wooden table, the printed emails, the bank statements, the transcript of the phone call. Each piece was a testament to their calculated deceit. When Liam finally arrived, his smile faltered as he took in the scene. Amelia's calm demeanor unnerved him. He likely expected tears, accusations, a dramatic outburst. Instead, she simply gestured to the table. "Have a seat, Liam. We need to talk." Her voice was steady, devoid of emotion, which seemed to frighten him even more. He sat down hesitantly, his eyes darting around the room, avoiding her gaze. "What's all this?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Amelia didn't answer. She simply slid the first piece of evidence across the table, a printout of an email exchange between Liam and Chloe detailing their plans to incorporate their new company using Amelia's stolen funds. Liam's face paled as he read it. He opened his mouth to speak, to deny it, but the words seemed to catch in his throat. Amelia then presented the bank statements, highlighting the suspicious transactions, the large sums of money transferred to an account she didn't recognize. Finally, she played the recording of their phone conversation, their voices clear and damning as they discussed their strategy to take over her business. As the recording played, Liam's composure completely crumbled. He buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking. "Amelia, I can explain," he stammered, his voice choked with emotion. But Amelia cut him off. "Explain what, Liam? Explain how you systematically betrayed me, not just emotionally, but professionally. Explain how you plotted with my best friend to steal everything I've worked for." Her voice, though still calm, now held an edge of steel. Liam looked up at her, his eyes filled with tears. "I never meant for it to go this far," he pleaded. It started with the affair. And then Chloe. She had this idea." Amelia scoffed. "Oh, Chloe had this idea? So you're blaming her?" Liam hesitated for a moment, then nodded weakly. "She's very persuasive," he mumbled. Amelia stared at him in disbelief. He was still trying to deflect responsibility, still trying to paint himself as a victim of Chloe's manipulation. It was pathetic. "And what about you, Liam?" Amelia asked, her voice rising slightly. "Where were your morals? Where was your loyalty to me? Did you ever stop to think about how this would affect me? How it would destroy everything I've built?" Liam remained silent, his gaze fixed on the floor. Amelia knew she had her answer. His silence spoke volumes. The man she thought she knew, the man she had loved and trusted for 5 years, was a fraud. He was weak, opportunistic, and utterly devoid of integrity. The realization, though painful, was also liberating. It allowed her to see him for who he truly was, to shed the illusions she had so carefully constructed around him. The anger that had been simmering beneath the surface finally began to boil over. "You disgust me, Liam," she said, her voice trembling with rage. "Both of you disgust me." She stood up, her body shaking. "Get out, Liam. Get out of my cabin, get out of my life, and don't ever come near me again." Liam didn't argue. He stood up slowly, his face pale and drawn. He looked at the evidence on the table one last time, then turned and walked out the door, disappearing into the darkening woods. Amelia watched him go, a strange mix of anger, sadness, and relief washing over her. The confrontation was over. The truth was out. But the battle was far from won. She still had to deal with Chloe, and she had to find a way to protect her business from their malicious scheme. As she stood there in the silent cabin, the weight of what had happened settled upon her. The betrayal had left a deep wound, but it had also ignited a fire within her. She was no longer the naive, trusting woman they had taken advantage of. She was stronger now, more resilient. She would not let them destroy her life. She would fight back. The confrontation with Chloe was a stark contrast to the tense standoff with Liam. Amelia didn't bother with a secluded location or a dramatic setup. She simply walked into Chloe's apartment, unannounced, the day after Liam's departure. Chloe, looking disheveled and surprised, clearly hadn't expected her. The carefully constructed facade of concern and innocence that Chloe had been wearing for weeks crumbled the moment she saw Amelia's face. She knew. The realization dawned on Chloe with the force of a physical blow. Amelia didn't waste any time on pleasantries. She walked straight to the coffee table and placed a neatly organized folder containing all the evidence she had gathered. The emails, the financial records, the phone transcript. Chloe's eyes widened in horror as she recognized the contents. "Amelia, she began, her voice trembling. But Amelia cut her off, her voice cold and hard. "Don't even try, Chloe. I know everything." Chloe sank onto the sofa, her face ashen. Tears welled up in her eyes, but Amelia felt no sympathy. The years of friendship, the shared secrets, the unwavering loyalty Amelia had offered, all of it felt like a betrayal now. "How could you?" Amelia asked, her voice barely a whisper, the pain of the betrayal finally breaking through her carefully constructed composure. "How could you do this to me? We were best friends." Chloe finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm so sorry, Amelia," she choked out between sobs. It happened. I never meant for it to go this far." Amelia stared at her, her heart aching with a mixture of pain and anger. "It just happened. You plotted with my boyfriend to steal my business, Chloe. That doesn't just happen." Chloe looked up at her, her eyes red and swollen. "Liam, he's very persuasive," she repeated Liam's pathetic excuse. Amelia scoffed. "So you're both going to blame each other? Neither of you can take responsibility for your own actions." Chloe remained silent, her head bowed in shame. Amelia felt a wave of disgust wash over her. This wasn't the Chloe she thought she knew, the kind, loyal friend who had always been there for her. This was a selfish, manipulative woman who had betrayed her in the most profound way imaginable. "Our friendship is over, Chloe," Amelia said, her voice firm. "Don't ever contact me again." She turned to leave, but Chloe's voice stopped her. "What are you going to do?" Chloe asked, her voice filled with fear. Amelia turned back, a cold smile playing on her lips. "What do you think I'm going to do, Chloe? You tried to steal my life. Now I'm going to take it back." Amelia walked out of Chloe's apartment, leaving her sobbing on the sofa. The confrontation had been less dramatic than the one with Liam, but it was no less significant. It marked the end of a long and cherished friendship, a bond that had been shattered by betrayal and greed. As Amelia walked away, she felt a sense of closure, but also a deep sadness for what had been lost. The pain of the betrayal was still raw, but it was now overshadowed by a steely determination. She would not let Liam and Chloe get away with what they had done. She would fight back, and she would win. Her first step was to secure her business. She contacted her lawyer immediately, outlining the situation and providing him with the evidence she had gathered. He was shocked by the extent of the betrayal, but assured her that she had a strong case. They began the process of filing a lawsuit against Liam and Chloe, seeking damages for breach of contract, fraud, and theft of intellectual property. Amelia also took immediate steps to protect her business assets, changing passwords, securing her financial accounts, and notifying her clients about the situation. It was a stressful and demanding process, but Amelia was determined to see it through. She refused to let Liam and Chloe destroy everything she had worked so hard to build. In the midst of the legal battle, Amelia also had to deal with the emotional fallout of the betrayal. The pain of losing Liam was significant, but the betrayal by Chloe cut even deeper. She had lost not only her boyfriend, but also her best friend, the person she had trusted implicitly for her entire life. The sense of loss was profound, and Amelia allowed herself time to grieve the end of both relationships. She leaned on her family and other close friends for support, finding comfort in their unwavering loyalty. Slowly but surely, Amelia began to heal. The anger and hurt didn't disappear overnight, but they gradually began to subside, replaced by a sense of resilience and a newfound strength. She realized that she couldn't control the actions of others, but she could control her own response. She refused to let the betrayal define her. Instead, she would use it as an opportunity for growth, to learn from her mistakes, and to build a stronger, more authentic life for herself. The legal battle with Liam and Chloe dragged on for months, filled with depositions, court hearings, and endless paperwork. But Amelia remained steadfast, determined to hold them accountable for their actions. In the end, she prevailed. The court ruled in her favor, awarding her significant damages and effectively dismantling Liam and Chloe's attempt to steal her business. The victory was bittersweet. While she was relieved to have won, the experience had left her scarred. The trust she had once placed in others had been shattered, and she knew it would take time to rebuild. But as she looked to the future, Amelia felt a sense of hope. She had faced betrayal and loss, but she had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. She had reclaimed her life, her business, and her own narrative. And she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them with courage and determination. The experience had taught her a valuable lesson: that true strength comes not from avoiding pain, but from facing it head-on and refusing to be defined by it. She was ready to move on, to build a new chapter in her life, one filled with genuine connections and unwavering self-reliance. The scars of the past might always be there, but they would serve as a reminder of her strength and her ability to overcome even the most devastating betrayals.